The last news article you read might have been the result of paid advertising. That's what a journalist from Outline.com detailed in a bombshell report called Bribes for Blogs. He provides emails and social media exchanges that illustrate the content that you might have read in Forbes magazine or Huffington Post that were probably written for the sole purpose of selling you a product, and they dress it up like it's a news article. Joining me now to talk about this is Tyrell Ventura, host of Watching the Hawks, clearly one of the best political shows on television. You've got to see Watching the Hawks if you haven't seen it already. But Tyrell's with me now. Tyrell, in all the time you've been involved with media, have you ever seen anything as explicit as the allegations provided in this report? That this is all phonied up stuff.
Not in journalism. I haven't seen this. I think the last time I saw this kind of like advertising was in like hip hop songs. You know, you get the musicians will do this where they'll include like, you know, Crevassier or some brand name into their song, and they'll get paid at the back end for it, and you're listening to the song, and it's kind of embedded advertising. But this is amazing what Outline has discovered, and a lot of it's done through these blog services and other things, and it truly just blows my mind, and it really is a disservice to journalism if you're sliding in advertisements in these articles, or outright, you know, writing an entire article that's basically one giant advertisement, and then not telling your audience, hey, I support this, or this is an ad, or I'm getting paid for this.
Well, I mean, you think that it's an article, right? I mean, you look at it, you believe it's an article, and all of a sudden you find out that it's phonied up from the pharmaceutical industry or, you know, the travel industry, something where they've written the article, they've given it to the Huffington Post, and they say, we want you to write, we want this run exactly like we've written it, and we want people to believe that they're actually reading a real article rather than an advertisement. And then there's no mention of advertising, whether it's Forbes like Online talks about or Huffington Post. This goes on a lot. The report asserts that the publication of Forbes is aware of actual payoffs in isolated incidents between brands and journalists. What are the grounds for that accusation, Tyrell? That's a strong accusation.
It is a strong accusation, and where the Outline journalist who's investigating this found this was in a case of Chris Chong, who was an author, a blogger for Forbes, who was, you know, putting out stories. He had about, I want to say, about a dozen stories up on Forbes. And when these kind of allegations arose, Forbes immediately took them down, because most sites, your Forbes, your HuffPost, they have, you know, rules that say that they don't allow their contributors to do this, because a lot of times these sites will approach the contributor, not Forbes. They'll go after someone writing on Forbes and say, hey, do you want to make an extra, you know, $150 or even more? I saw some numbers 1,100, and said, hey, do you want to do this? Insert this into your article, away you go. And what Outline kind of laid out in their reporting is that you really got the idea that most .coms and most publications kind of just look the other way. You know, that even though it's against the rules, you know, their rules that they have for journalist conduct there, they don't really enforce them. They only kind of enforce them after the fact, after it's made, you know, public, somebody figures it out, or, you know, another good journalist investigates the journalist and finds out, oh, he's getting paid on the side. But what you're seeing is that a lot of people are using this for supplemental income. And in the online news world, as you know, as well as I do, there's not a lot of money. That money window is getting smaller and smaller, especially for independent journalists. So the temptation to corrupt your reporting is there, and that's what these PR companies and these big corporations jump on and take advantage of.
Yeah, and Tyrell, this is not just, as you've pointed out, this is not just in blogosphere. There was a poll that said, I think 65% of people that were polled believed that corporate media is so full of fake news that they don't know what's real and not. The truth is, the same thing now is shifting over to social media. In other words, we know we've seen this for so long with corporate media. We know, well, most people don't know this, but if you do this for a living, if you're in the journalism business, if you're in the lawyering business, and you see a company like Xarelto, this product we just talked about earlier, you see the companies coming forward with all these feel-good commercials, and in there, you also know that some of those companies are also feeding stories that are fantasy stories that corporate media picks up on, and it's kind of a thank you for spending $10 million with us this year. Thank you, J&J. Thank you, Pfizer. Thank you, Merck. And now we're starting to see that, your point being, now we're starting to see that bleed over into the social media realm.
Yeah.
What's your take?
Well, I think that anybody who watches news, that corporate media has their agendas. That the corporate, paymasters are going to say, look, don't report on this, report on this. It's kind of the unspoken word. But now when you're seeing, this kind of outright, here's your story, take it. Normally, you'd see this in the old days in magazines, and it'd be that section that looks like a story, but then at the end it has it has the big pharma pill at the end saying, oh, this was, and you can generally, flip the pages and know you suddenly got, you tell you're looking at an advertisement, but as you just pointed out, Mike, that line is getting smaller and smaller. Sometimes it's fine print way at the bottom. If you're reading a New York Times or something like that, that suddenly, oh, this op-ed is actually paid for. That this isn't actually a reporter doing good work. This is a reporter basically working directly for an advertiser or a corporation that says, go put out this article to basically pimp our product. And it's really unscrupulous, and it's one of those things that really gets under my skin, because at the end of the day, the media has to be the fourth estate. I understand when I'm looking at entertainment or I'm watching something on TV, there's going to be advertisements, we're surrounded by it, I get it. But at the end of the day, journalism has to get this out of their system. They have to either make their article, tell their audience to be, explain to their audience, like, look, this is an advertisement, we have to do this, we're hyping this product, but that's what it is, it's an advertisement. I understand you need the money, whatever excuse you want to have for it, but you cannot call yourself a journalist and then get paid to advertise in your journalism, in your article. You can't call yourself a journalist if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, Tyrell, thank you for joining me. Okay, let's stay after them. Maybe they'll get it someday.
I hope so.
Stay after them on this topic. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.